We were getting more evidence to get more players in the net.
The only person we didn't have is the blind Sheikh.
A blessing on tape would help to prove in court that the Sheikh authorized terrorist activities.
Imad goes into the Sheikh's apartment. He's got the mic in his briefcase.
And the only thing that was kind of silly about it was that it had a red light on the outside.
You know, we didn't have the best equipment at the time, but thank God the Sheikh was blind, so he didn't see the thing blinking.
With a wire on, Imad will try to compromise Rahman.
We go to the kitchen. It's a very small space. And then I told him that Siddi and I start to build something big, very big for the United Nations. What do you think? It is permissible or it is illicit? So Sheikh Omar answered, it is not illicit, it is okay, but don't do it. I said, don't do it, why? He said, it is better, and then he put his mouth into my left ear because I'm holding him in my left arm, and he started to whisper. So I have to bring my briefcase all the way up to my nose. Of course, he's blind, he cannot see. And he's whispering in my left ear, and he said, I quote, find a plan to inflict damage on the American army. I said, okay, Sheikh, and I dropped the briefcase quickly. Before somebody see me in that awkward position, then I'm history. I'll be dead.
And that was the piece of evidence, the moment in time when he put his stamp on it.
The Sheikh knew about it and gave a blessing to do a terrorist act in the United States.
They were operating under the inspiration, the guidance, ultimately the approval of the blind Sheikh.
This recording by Ahmad Salem is, for the American justice system, the proof of the Sheikh's implication in the network's terrorist acts. On the night of June 24, 1993, Mary Jo White gives the FBI orders to arrest the entire network.
Around 1 o'clock in the morning, when we were building the bombs, the SWAT team opened the front door and they came from the back door with the shotgun in my head. Don't move, I'm gonna blow your... And it was big chaos, and out of the sudden, silence.
Sadiq and the informant discussed placing bombs in a car, driving that car into a building in the United Nations complex, and then detonating that bomb. The terrorists are accused of testing timing devices for the bomb, giving the confidential informant $300 to rent a safe house in Queens where the bombs would be made. Now, the plan, according to the federal complaint filed in court this morning, blow up the United Nations building, codenamed the Big House by the conspirators, then destroy the Lincoln and Holland tunnels with bombs, and then murder security guards outside the Federal Plaza where the FBI headquarters are located, drive a car bomb into the basement of the federal building and blow it up, and all of that in the same day. That was allegedly the plan.
8 suspects, all of them described as Muslim extremists, are now in custody. Court documents say one of the men admits he was part of the February bombing of the World Trade Center. They were picked up in early morning raids in Queens, Brooklyn, and Westchester. Police say a bomb was being prepared at one location. The suspects also reportedly have ties to Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, the spiritual leader for the World Trade Center suspects.
The FBI and New York police spent the night rounding up suspects. A raid in Jamaica, Queens nabbed some of the alleged terrorists in the midst of making a bomb. The bomb squad was called in to haul away drums of chemicals. The other suspects were seized in raids in Brooklyn and Yonkers. All 8 are Muslim extremist fundamentalists. This is one of the biggest operations in FBI history.
I don't know about the biggest in terms of resources, certainly one of the most significant we've ever been involved in because of what it means to the overall safety, public safety factor in New York City and the United States.
And the men arrested allegedly hatched their plot of destruction in a quiet residential neighborhood in Queens. Residents there report suspicious goings-on leading up to today's arrest.
Behind a graffiti-scarred steel door, sources say the seeds of destruction were being sown. The garage had been some sort of soda distributorship until 2 months ago, when everything changed. The place grew virtually silent, save for the infrequent comings and goings of a few people and their brand new blue van.
I thought it was, they have like a soda and beer business there.
It used to be.
Oh, but after that, for a long time, I didn't see it open. When they opened, it was like open a little on the gate and they were closed right away.
No one on this block says they ever saw what was going on inside, but Maria Rodriguez, who lives directly across the street, remembers the day the new tenants moved in, taking in 2 yellow drums on a handcart. Around the corner where the neighborhood gathered to talk this morning, the gated side entrance was locked. After 37 years on the block, Bonnie Curry had to get a few pictures, especially after she joked to her husband this morning about how close the alleged bomb factory might actually be.
I can't believe this. You know, I told my husband this morning when we heard it on the radio, I said, oh, it's probably next door. No, it's across the street.
Now, the first clue that most of these people had that something was up was when the FBI descended on this street and on this small steel door and began unloading things. That happened overnight. They worked throughout the early morning hours, unloading all kinds of things from inside, presumed to be some of that bomb-making equipment. Meanwhile, the neighbors feel that they are very lucky that nothing went wrong, that no bombs blew up, that none of the chemicals exploded, because they didn't know anything was going on inside.
The 8 suspects allegedly planned to bomb either the Holland or Lincoln Tunnel, or both, along with the United Nations and the FBI headquarters in Lower Manhattan. They also reportedly planned to assassinate Senator Alphonse D'Amato, State Assemblyman Dov Hikind, UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali, and Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. All 8 suspects have ties to Jersey City-based radical Muslim cleric Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman.
Number 3, the removal of the Mubarak regime is a matter that is a must in the Islamic world. According to the Islamic law, it is an obligation. America is going to be held accountable before the whole world for the covering up for the Mubarak regime and the injustices.
The alleged terrorists taken into custody today, like the suspects in the World Trade Center bombing 4 months ago, have ties to Abdel Rahman. But the FBI says there are no direct links between the two groups other than the same basic types of explosives.
The plot's list of human targets describes a trail from New York to Washington to Cairo. The alleged terrorist cell merging the deadly political violence of the Middle East with U.S. targets.
They had detailed plans of a number of facilities, the FBI building, some of the tunnels, UN headquarters. And so as distraught and wacky as they are, they're not to be disregarded or taken lightly.
One of the most prominent, New York's junior senator, Alphonse D'Amato, who claimed he was a target because of his demand for capital punishment for terrorists and his outspoken calls for tougher treatment of Muslim cleric Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman. The suspects, whose nationalities are U.S., Egyptian, and Palestinian, also supposedly had UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali on their list, and Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. But the plotters' list allegedly included some less prominent targets, like Brooklyn Assemblyman Dov Hikind, who said he had received telephone death threats and had been receiving special police protection.
I also found out at that time that there was a target bigger than the World Trade Center. That's what I was told by a federal authority, that there were major targets that would make the World Trade Center look like nothing.
Well, I think if you take a look at the history, you'll see that Abu Halima, who is the mastermind of the bombing of the Trade Center, was carrying around pictures and posters of me going back 2 years ago, decrying me and my activities. And so I wasn't surprised when the FBI informed me, when Judge Sessions had them inform me May 1st, that I was a potential target of some of these terrorists. And I had strong suspicions that it would come from Sheikh Rahman and or his followers, and I think in the fullness of time you'll find that to be the case. But it's not going to deter me. The Sheikh should be incarcerated and deported. He came in here illegally. We've got to be tougher with terrorists. You cannot allow them to blow up places.
There's been no reaction directly from President Clinton yet. His press spokesman said that the president knew about these arrests well in advance of this. He was briefed on this yesterday. We may get some reaction from him later today, and as well as the State Department. But if this is indeed related to some state-sponsored terrorism, there is a possibility of some retaliation from the United States.